Oh my goodness, we got a receiver. Oh man, so we brought Calvin Ridley back, right? We brought Calvin Ridley back, right? Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm WR Gabe 9 representing the 904 from the 602, and today we're talking Jaguars, we're talking free agency, because they made one of the first splashes of the new year in the legal tampering period by signing Buffalo Bills wide receiver Gabe Davis. I want to break down the move and what it means for the future in terms of Calvin Ridley and why I'm not panicking just yet. First off, Gabe Davis, we knew he wasn't coming back to Buffalo because Buffalo is in cap trouble. They don't have a lot of money. They, a week ago, had about $41 million over the cap space. They had to get rid of a lot of players. Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Mitch Morse, who is now a Jaguar. I'm so happy about that. Go check that video out if you haven't already. That dropped earlier today. Got a lot of content coming today because it's the start of the new league year with legal tampering. I had a feeling this move with Gabe Davis was coming. I was preparing for it because over the weekend, Trevor Lawrence followed Mitch Morse and Gabe Davis. The writing was on the wall there, especially after Mitch Morse came to Jacksonville. You figure, wait a sec, why would Trevor Lawrence follow Morse and Davis if they both weren't coming to Jacksonville, especially after he followed Morse and he came, Davis? I was preparing for this for a long time. Gabe Davis last season, 45 catches, 746 yards, 7 touchdowns. On paper, very good. The problem with Gabe Davis, obviously, super inconsistent wide receiver. He has about 4 good games a year, and those 4 games are really good games. Don't get me wrong. Those 4 games are phenomenal games, and then he disappears for the other 12. It's not like he's posting 4 catches, 50 yards every single week. It is very hit or miss. It is very streaky. His 2023 stats, he went over 100 yards in 3 games, but he also had 5 games where he played and didn't record a single catch. There is no in-between with this man. Super streaky wide receiver. You figure he's going to be on the outside as your wide receiver 2. You're going to have Kirk lined up in the slot, and then we'll see what we do at wide receiver 1, whether we bring back Calvin Ridley or draft a guy in the first round, maybe Rome. Having said that, though, does this impact anything with the possibility of getting Tee Higgins in a trade or Calvin Ridley, bringing him back? Absolutely not, and this is why I'm not angry about this move. This is why I'm not panicking about this move. This is a Zay Jones replacement, and it's a massive upgrade if I do say so myself. Zay Jones, last year, I will say he played through injury most of the season, had a PCL injury, had cartilage damage. He also had a hamstring injury during that game against the Ravens. But with Zay Jones, there is a severe lack of separation. It seems like the man could never get open. Everything was super contested. It seemed like there was no cushion with Zay whatsoever. I don't know how much the injury had to do with that, but it felt like a theme over the last 2 seasons where you had to scheme to get Zay Jones open. He couldn't just get open by himself. On top of that, yards after the catch, Zay Jones not very good at that. 9.9 yards per catch in Jacksonville, which is pretty poor for an outside receiver. For some perspective, Gabe Davis, 16.7. That's about double what Zay Jones was having. He offers more and plays bigger than Zay Jones, even though they're both the same height. Now, Zay Jones, if you do cut him, it's about a $6.5 million cap hit, which is a lot of money, I will admit. But it does save $4 million because right now he's carrying a $10 million cap hit. And that $4 million can go a long way, especially if the Jags do trade up from the 17 spot to get inside the top 10. You'll probably need another $1 million to give to that draft pick. Might be able to get some more depth on the interior of the defensive line, maybe some interior offensive line help, because I really don't have any interior offensive line depth. Maybe get a cornerback. I know they missed on Jeff Okudah, who went to the Houston Texans, but maybe a guy like that, you can save some money doing that. Now, obviously, you're not cutting Zay Jones right now. You don't want to cut a guy until we figure out what happens with Calvin Ridley, Tee Higgins, or the NFL draft. But Zay Jones, definitely replaceable, especially after this move, and I would not be opposed to that. When we got Zay Jones back in 2022 during that offseason, who was older than Gabe Davis was at the time, his average was about 34 catches and 376 yards a year. For some comparison, Gabe Davis' average over 4 seasons, as inconsistent as he is, as streaky as he is, 40 catches, 682 yards, and about 7 touchdowns a year in the regular season. Top of that, Zay Jones really couldn't go deep a whole lot because of that lack of separation. His contested ball winning rate, very poor. It seemed like any 50-50 ball he was not winning. Even though Trevor can throw a good deep ball, he didn't really get a chance to utilize that a whole lot last year. because Zay Jones' lack of separation on the outside played a huge part of that. There's only one real time in 2 years, I could be wrong, but the only real time I remember him creating separation was that touchdown against the Chargers on that post route in that playoff game in that 27-0 comeback in the third quarter. Underdog Fantasy did a very good video where they had Trevor Lawrence breaking down the comeback, the anatomy of the comeback. Very good video. Go check that out if you haven't already. And he broke down that play. That wasn't really anything that Zay Jones did. It was more of a phenomenal scheme. So really, Zay Jones' route running, I'm not crazy about. Gabe Davis can't be any worse. He can't be any worse. And again, this is not a Calvin Ridley replacement in the slice bit. This does not mean the Jags are out of the running for Calvin Ridley, because they're still talking with Ridley. They are still talking with Ridley. They still have the money if they want to do it. Again, they completely botched that situation. Josh Allen should have been signed to a long-term deal last season. There should have been talks with Allen at the very least before a few weeks ago. The fact that we got to the Pro Bowl and Allen still hadn't spoken with Bulky and the Jaguars is alarming. Horrible roster management. Should have been able to sign Allen to a long-term deal and franchise Ridley. But this doesn't change anything with regards to getting Calvin Ridley or not. It doesn't change anything because we've known about this for quite some time, and we're still talking with Calvin Ridley, and it doesn't really change anything in terms of the cap space, because if we do get Calvin Ridley or we trade for Tee Higgins now that he's available, my guess is that it means Zay Jones is gone. If you ask me, Gabe Davis is an upgrade over Zay Jones. Ask me for Gabe Davis or Zay Jones, I will say Gabe Davis. 3 years, $39 million. It's a deal right in line with other receivers. It's not an overpay by any means. Hunter Renfrow, pretty good comparison in terms of stat line before he got the contract. $13 million cap hit for Renfrow on average, pretty much. It's a pretty solid comparison production-wise by the time that he got that deal. Obviously, Renfrow the last 2 seasons not so good, but it's a deal that makes a lot of sense and isn't an overpay on paper. Then again, I thought the Christian Kirk deal was an overpay on paper, and that is looking like a steal with each passing day. And Christian Kirk is great in Jacksonville, so maybe this free agent signing will work out too. Gabe Davis, now a Jacksonville Jaguar. We'll see what his role in the offense is. My guess is he's going to be on the outside replacing Zay Jones and go into the season with hopefully Calvin Ridley or a draft pick, maybe a trade up to get Robe in the first round. You have Christian Kirk in the slot. You have Gabe Davis as your 2, and I'm not opposed to that. Still probably need to get another receiver. I like Parker Washington a lot. I like him, but you still probably need to get one more guy just for depth purposes. But I do like this signing. Even if he is a bit inconsistent, I think it's a massive upgrade over Zay Jones since they'll be the same spot. If it was a Calvin Ridley replacement, different story. But I think this is just a Zay Jones replacement, which after how he played last season, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But that's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. What are your thoughts on Gabe Davis coming to Jacksonville? Any fond memories of him with Buffalo? Do you like the signing? Do you not like the signing? What else do you think the Jags are going to do in free agency? Do you think they will bring back Calvin Ridley? Do you think they're going to get another receiver? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, WR Gabe 9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is WR Gabe 9 signing off. And as always, go Jags and Gabe Davis. Welcome to Duval.